my paranormal experiences frightened me and scarred me probably for the rest of my life. As a young child, I always sensed there were spirits. Example, one time when I was a little lad, I shared a bedroom with my two brothers and we had bunk beds, and we had a new extension built onto the house. One time, the room was always cold, and I was in the bunk bed and I decided to move the beds around rather than being at the back wall. It was towards the front wall as you're going through the door. When I did, everything was fine because I was a very clean, tidy person. But one night, I felt this presence behind me, and when I turned around, there was like a spirit with like a top hat, like facing and like crouching right over to me, and it scared me. So I sort of threw the cover over my head, and within 2 or 3 minutes, I thought, "Nah, this isn't real." And I pulled it up, and I looked, and it was still there, and it kind of scared me. So I've kind of been skeptical about ghosts and spirits. I've had a good few encounters, but the main story is it's a pub called and a guest house called the Golden Fleece Inn in York. Now, at the time when I was a young lad, my granddad used to take me out on coastliner, and it used to lead through Tadcaster, and it used to go through Scarborough, ended up at Briglington or Filey, and he also said, "Don't stop in that pub there. I know it's haunted. It's a horrible place." I said, "All right." So when somebody told you that you don't want to go there, as a child, you're fascinated, like, "Oh, that's a very, very haunted pub." We used to pass all the time, and as time went on, my grandfather passed away. But every time I still used to go to like Filey and go to Briglington and places, I used to always get this coastline from Leeds, and it was to pass it, and I always just look at it and think, what would it be like to actually stop there? What would it be like to experience this? So I work, and I got to the stage, yeah. So I thought, I wanted to go to York, which is the capital, and this place is called the Golden Fleece, and it's on Pavement Street. Now, at the time, I didn't know that it's the second most haunted place in Europe, and I didn't actually know. All I knew is that my grandparent was passing by in the coastline saying, "Don't stop there, it's a haunted pub." So I decided that when it was my birthday last year, I'm going to spend 2 days in this pub. So I think it costs about £250 for 2 nights. Why I bought 2 nights, I do not know. I guess I was kind of to prove a point, because I thought I'll just go there and it'd be nothing, and then there's nothing to be scared of, like what happened years ago. Or I thought, if I go there and something does happen, then there's got to be life after death, because if there's these spirits and in the middle plane, there's got to be hell, and there's got to be an heaven, right? So I decided to book at this place. I didn't even do my research. I just took it from it was a pub and I wanted to stay there. So I booked 2 nights, like I said. I get from Bradford to Bradford Interchange, from Bradford Interchange to straight to York on the train. And I got off and I wandered around, I looked at a few shops, bought a few things, and then decided to check in. But the moment I walked through the place, I got this terrible, terrible, horrible feeling in my gut that something wasn't nice. It was like an unwelcoming, pleasant. This was just in the bar down below. The rooms get even worse, but anyway, stick to the bar. So we go down to the bar and I order myself a pint of beer, and I get this. It's just a horrible feeling, like you're unwelcome there. It's nothing to do with the bar staff. It's nothing to do with anything, but just the presence you get as you walk in. So, that's your room. Pass me the key. But I didn't realise it was Lady Peckett's room. Now, Lady Peckett's supposed to have won herself, and this place is as old. It dates back to as late as 1503, but they think it's got a bit late 14th, and there's so many spirits that haunt the halls. When you're outside of the pub, they've got like plaque, and it tells you Lady Peckett, was the owner, and it goes down One-Eyed Jack, this guy that walks around with a pistol and one eye. Then there's different spirits that on different floors of these locations. But anyway, I checked in, got the present top to the room. I went to the room. Oh, the door was really. I walked through some crooked steps. It was like 3 floors up. But when you go in the room, the door was so small that you had to like duck underneath. And I'm not the tallest of guys. I'm probably about 5'8", 5'9". I had to duck underneath to get underneath this door and looked at the room, and it was, wow. It was like Dracula's castle. It was like so old. All the floor was crooked. There are these 2 beds, single beds that was there that was like, phew, I won't like to say how old. Past the Titanic. And then on the wall, you could see it would look like where wooden beams are. There was scratch marks, like also like a cat paw, but it were like scratches all the way down. When I checked in, I put my bags upstairs. I went downstairs, ordered me another drink, and I said to the bar person, I said, I'm stopping there and went, good luck. I said, well, what do you normally hear? Oh, well, good luck. We don't normally let that room out, but there's only room that were available when booked. So the night got worse, a lot worse, where after we checked in his bags and I spoke and I got the pint of beer, there's a beer garden at the back and it was quite warm. So I went outside with my partner and I had a couple of beers and she said, I've left my tobacco tin in the bedroom. And maybe me being trying to be not alpha male, but like, oh, I'm not bothered about the fuse, but I'll go up and get it. So I went up. When I went up, I had to go through the bar. And there's like a stairs in the middle of the pub that like go round. So I had to go all the way up, duck under this door, and I closed it. And then when I went in, I thought, oh, well, I need a wee. So I went to the toilet. And when I did, it was like a ensuite bathroom. The shower rail flew off. It flew out of the corner and it started spraying everywhere. So I thought, oh. So I tried to ignore it because apparently if you're scared, then it gives a menager. So I picked it up and I put it back on. And then I stepped into the bedroom and I heard like a scratching, like a all the way down the wall. I could also see little bits of dust and parchment coming down from that beam that I told you that looks like a cat scratching pole. And I thought, oh, right. So then I felt like something wasn't right and I didn't feel myself at all. So I went downstairs back into beer garden and for some reason I said, I'm going to go upstairs and get a shower. Now, I had a shower the same morning before I set off for the train. So there was no need for a shower. And then I had 2 pints, only 2 pints of beer, and apparently I blacked out on the table. My arms was folded on top of it, and I blacked out, and it wasn't like me at all. Then, adamantly, I popped up again and said, I need to go get a shower. I said, all right, you go get a shower. So I go upstairs, and this is the last, well, I do remember, but in a way I don't remember because it took hold of me and took hold of my body. I sort of walked up the stairs and like autopilot mode, like I would just, my mind went with it, but my body was just moving itself. I go to this room and I just go in the bathroom and I run the shower, and leave it running. And then next meeting though, I felt like I needed to hurt from myself or hurt myself, like I was possessed. It felt like a spirit had entered my body. And in the background, I was screaming, saying, please, 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 don't go that way, don't go that way. But it took control of my body. So in my mind, I knew what I was doing, but in my body, I didn't. And it was full control that it started to also, there was probably about 6 inches of window allowed to be open because it had some apartment on it. It was booting the side of the window, which I was in no control of my body, and actually tried to throw myself out of this window, right? To the point that I took control of myself, managed to shout where someone heard me, come up and stopped me and grabbed me by one leg and pulled me back in through this window. Of course, residents and people and bar people took it upon themselves to phone the police. When they phoned the police come, and I don't know, I was perfectly fine. It was like the spirit had just like buggered off out of my body, and I was left to, and I'm like, no, I'm fine, I'm totally fine. Well, you were apparently done this. I said, no, I'm fine, just leave me. But they said no. So I think what the police officers did is, for my own safety, they cuffed me and they sent me to hospital, thinking I'm dangerous myself, and if they like left me and it happened to me, they'd be liable. So they did it to be kind. But I knew in myself that this wasn't me. This wasn't me at all. So much ended up in the hospital where the chief sergeant phoned up and said, "Whoa, no, this guy's free to go. He's all right. Blah blah blah. We checked him out. We checked his records. Blah blah blah. There's no common signs of this." So they did. But this is where it gets a lot worse. My phone, because the police took it, an ambulance, they took it in like a plastic bag, and I had it in the ambulance, and my phone was like 1% battery, and I needed to get back to this guest house. Don't forget, I don't know at the time whether my partner was inside this room, whether she was stopped at an hotel, whether what she did, I had no clue. So I come back to this phone with 1% to quickly read through messages. I actually got a cup from the hospital with a biro pen and wrote down the number on there so I know I can contact. And they've been up all night, and apparently it's been horrifying. So horrifying. And where I'll meet outside, and be careful what you say, because things are listening. I said, "What do you mean?" She went, "I'll describe I'll tell you when I see you." So I managed to, well, my phone was flat at the time. So then I walked to the hospital janitor, or the receptionist, as you call them, and said, "Please give me a taxi." When York, mate, you're not going to get a taxi. Very unrare about hospital. So he tried about 3-4 numbers for me, and he managed to get hold of one. They went, "Yeah, but it's going to be double time." So it probably cost me about £18 or something just to get probably about a mile and a half. But I paid it. I wanted to get back. And when I got back, I was greeted outside, because obviously I didn't have the key to the place because the partner did. So I had to let her know, obviously, by writing the number down when I'm coming. So lucky enough, the taxi driver was good enough to do that. And then she came out, she greeted me, and straight away she had me a cigarette rolled, and she went, "Listen, I need to talk to you. Be careful what you say in that room. This room is horrifying. This room is scary. I've seen things moving. I've seen stuff happening. Just ignore it. Just don't, pretend you don't see it. I've been horrified." I said, "I thought you might have checked in at a hotel or something like that. It's been so scary." She replied, No, because I know how much money it has cost you." So it went on, and she said, "Be careful when you come in." She went, shower keeps flying off, and also there's creaking and things moving. I went, "Oh, great." So then went back to the room, and I was sat there and feeling so tired, being obviously in A&E and to the ambulance and the service, and looking around. I'm like, oh. So I sat down, and he heard it scratching again. And she said, "Just ignore it. Just ignore it." I went, "I can't." Anyway, the bathroom was en suite. So where it was on the bed, the bathroom was opposite. And she was sat on the toilet, and she was going to the toilet. So she left it open because she felt a bit scared, obviously. So behind her, I saw this dark image walking up and down, very small, probably about 5'2", walking behind her, and it stood and stopped behind her. I said, "Don't turn around." She went, "What do you mean? What do you mean?" I said, "Listen to me." She went, "You're being weird again." I said, "No, I am not." I said, "Don't." So silly as she turned, she saw it and she screamed, running of a room, and obviously they heard her scream again. I'm like, oh God. But then I thought I need a cigarette, so I sort of rolled myself a cigarette. At the side, there was like a kettle. So I thought, right, okay, I'm going to make myself a nice black coffee because this is kind of unusual. And when I went to the kettle, lo and behold, at the side of the kettle, they only supply a Ouija board, And this place has been, people come all the time to torment these spirits. If you go on like the Golden Fleece in York on Pavement Street and you go on YouTube, you'll see all the haunted videos, and these videos are unreal. They're very, very true. But when I went back, and like I say, I got my coffee and I saw the Ouija board on the floor, it looked like the carpet was moving. It was moving so much, it was like, wow, this isn't right. I've just had a boiling kettle. And I got my torch and I looked down because I was just going by the bathroom light. And when I looked down, it was like an orb motorway. There was thousands of orbs. It was like it was snowing, basically, but on the carpet. And it was like glowing because there's so many people that do all these Ouija and black magic performances. It's like the gateway to hell. So basically, I stopped in the gateway to hell. I stopped in the most scariest environment. It so much so that when I stood up and I saw these orbs and I walked forward, I was talking, said, this isn't normal. This is not normal. It felt like someone pushed past me, like almost like walked past me, like in my way, and sort of pushed me to left or right. And I went, wow. And that sort of really scared me. And it affected my mental health so much that nothing scares me now. Nothing scares me, right? If people say they've heard creaks or they've seen these poltergeists or they've done this, I'm like, well, I've been to the gateway of hell and nothing does scare me. It's kind of one of those. But these are very, very, very fierce creatures. I mean, the one that I stopped in, Lady Peckett, she was she was the owner, she was a lady that walks around, she's the mistress. But then if you look on the website, what it says is like a little boy that got trampled with an horse and cart outside. There was someone called Grumpy Old Man that runs around these corridors and areas. I thought to myself, yeah, come on, got this place, easy ride. No. And I tell you this now, whoever ever says I do not believe in ghosts, spend one night, not two, just one night in the Golden Fleece, and you will see that there is such thing, and they are terrifying, evil creatures. Well, not creatures, spirits, should I say. And I hope, like, if you go around like York, you probably, even if you don't want to go in, just pass the place. Have a look outside. You'll see like the history behind it. Go on YouTube, but I'm telling you, don't stop there because it absolutely made me. But it took me about maybe nearly 3 weeks just to start coming round the shock, the terror. But like I say, nothing scares me now. So I'm kind of glad I stopped there, but in a weird way, not recommended. Not for the faint-hearted anyway. But no wonder it was on a room available. If it happens like it did and what I actually saw. And I hope that the story has helped, and I hope that the listeners are sat there and listening to what I'm saying, because it is absolutely 101% true. And that's my story, and thank you very much.
If you've had a paranormal experience and would like to be a guest on the show, please contact us by going to myparax.com. That's myparaex.com. Thanks for listening.